Toddler tantrums are inevitable. It's how we show up as a parent that actually matters. What I find in my practice is that most parents are on kind of two ends of the spectrum. You have parents who would be considered authoritative, and they are using punishments and bribes to get their child to comply, to get their child to stop the behavior. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you have what would be considered permissive parenting. These parents who are kind of frozen and stuck, and they're not really sure how to handle a situation because they don't want to ruin their child. They don't want to do the wrong thing. The problem is with both sides of this parenting spectrum here, it's just band-aids. Whether it's permissive parenting and just kind of saying, oh, shove it under the carpet, we'll deal with it later. Or it's this authoritative parenting where it's like, no, you do this. And if you don't comply, there's shaming, there's fear used to motivate kids to do things. And this is probably why you notice tantrums and behaviors that are unwanted continue happening over and over and over again. When I was reading the book, The Whole Brain Child, I was shocked to hear that children under the age of 7 still need 100% co-regulation. This means a child is unable to regulate themselves without another person. So imagine we, as the parent, are telling our child, go sit in timeout and figure it out yourself. Learn how to regulate yourself on your own. They are not going to learn good coping skills to do that with. They're going to turn to food. They're going to turn to, whether it's a baby or a lovey, or they're just going to keep doing a bad behavior over and over again because they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to deal with this internal feeling that is going on. If you're new to the idea of emotional regulation, this is an idea of letting our child borrow our calm. I love thinking about getting into a moment with my child. They're having a meltdown, they're losing it, and I'm able to come in and hold space for them so they can regulate with me. I'm literally giving them the calm in my body and handing it over to them, giving them the opportunity to use it to calm their body down so we can effectively respond to the behavior. So in my own parenting journey, I found that my kids would be in the middle of a tantrum and I would be trying to talk to them, punish them, tell them what to do, how to feel, what are you feeling, asking questions. And it was just escalating the situation. And if you've been here, you know what this feels like. And it's frustrating because me as the mom, I'm not feeling heard, right? And it's like, just stop, just listen. And what I realized was this research was 100% accurate. Our child cannot hear us. The punishment, the boundary, the correction doesn't mean or sound like anything to them because they are in their fight or flight. They're not in their calm parasympathetic state. And so my goal as a parent is I want to get my child to a calm state so that we can effectively work through the behavior, because the behavior is not what we think it is. It's not just to annoy us, frustrate us, push our buttons. There's actually a much deeper meaning behind it. So how do we handle toddler tantrums if punishments and bribes and pushing things under the carpet doesn't work? There are actually two areas that we need to understand before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to actually handle a toddler tantrum. If you are new here, my name is Alexis. I am a certified parent coach and I'm a stay-at-home mama, which is a fancy way of saying I have the research and the knowledge side of things mixed with the actual real life experience that comes with being a mom. I also have NICU baby experience, so I get the stress and the trauma that comes with that, along with then having a medically complex child, which just kind of changes the game. I've literally spent the last 3 years experimenting on myself, learning new things, trying them out, so that way I could become a calm and peaceful parent. That is what I'm so passionate about here. So the first area that I think it's important to understand is Mindsight. Mindsight is a term that was coined by Daniel Siegel, and I'm going to read you his definition. So this is the ability to see inside their mind and the mind of another with curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love. I think so often as a mama who honestly was not sure how to parent, when I was kind of in this limbo of sometimes being really permissive while other times being really strict and on top of things, I struggled to see my child. I all I saw was the behavior. I saw the exterior. And when I actually learned about Mindsight, it was something that made me go, huh. And it kind of helped me to take a step back in a moment when a tantrum was happening and say, what is actually going on for my child? What is, and this is where I love nonviolent communication, what is the need here, the unmet need? Because we know from nonviolent communication that a child's behavior is literally just their best attempt at getting a need met. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, yes, their need for food is met. They're safe. They're in a home. All their needs are met. I mean, their basic needs are met. These needs are so much bigger than this. I know there's like got to be over 20, but there's probably 50 or more needs within the nonviolent communication framework. And for me, it was like realizing that my child is having a need for choice, to be heard, to be seen. My child is having a need for independence, for spontaneity. And this was all playing a role in that behavior. And so when I shifted my lens and I went from my child is poking my buttons, they're kind of poking the bear, so to speak. They're just doing this to make me upset. And I shifted it into, no, they have a need here and they're trying to get that met. And I want to give you the example of a toddler who is consistently hitting or biting. It's like we want to dive into that. We want to look deeper because the behavior isn't the issue. How is your response? Are you always attentive and always present when the child is biting or after they have, chosen to bite somebody? And the answer is probably most likely yes. Yes, you are attentive. Yes, you are there. And that is meeting their need, maybe to be heard, to be seen, to have. I very conveniently got distracted with a toddler who was having a moment. So I don't remember exactly where I was. But I want you to see that Mindsight is this curiosity piece. It's this curiosity piece of diving deeper. So let's say your child knocked over the blocks. It's not coming in with judgments and punishments. It's getting curious, asking questions, and even to the youngest of toddlers, this fresh 1-year-old, asking questions, allowing yourself to observe, notice their body language. And there may need to be kind of some empathy guesses that go into this part. But using Mindsight is going to help you to not just see your child for their behavior, but to see what's going on underneath the surface. The next area that we need to dive into is age-appropriate expectations. As a mom, I often expect a lot more of my kids at their age, or the complete opposite, I expect a lot less, kind of depending if you're in that authoritative mindset or if you're in that more permissive mindset. I can sway between the two if I'm not being aware or if I haven't reevaluated where my kid is at. For instance, I think often with behaviors, I'm expectant that my child is able to regulate themselves way earlier than they really can or should. I love the book Beyond Behaviors, and Mona Delahook, this is a quote that she says in that book. So 56% of parents believe that children have the impulse control to resist the desire to do something before age 3. The truth is that toddlers don't start developing these abilities until age 3.5 or 4 at the earliest. Isn't that crazy? So we're thinking that being able to stop a behavior doesn't actually come online till almost 3.5, 4. That's like towards the end of the toddler years. So by putting our child in timeout or spanking them, This isn't teaching them to stop. This is using fear within their body to make them stop. To basically, primally, as parents, we are so freaked out by this behavior or embarrassed by the behavior, we will do anything to make it stop. Just like primally, they are doing anything they can to get a need met. So this is where I'm always reevaluating and saying, where's my child at? I'm looking at brain science and I'm trying to understand, is this something that they just physically can't do? Or is this something that they just won't do? And this could even come to the idea of toys. Is my 3.5-year-old truly able to pick up an entire room of toys? Or is my expectation too high? Is it that they can't, or is it that they won't? Walking myself through these expectations, shifting them, being very realistic, helps me to show up in a way that is less irritated and frustrated, and honestly, just kind of reaction of how I'm feeling because of fear, because of, embarrassment, like I said earlier. So, the 4 steps to handling a toddler tantrum. I'm going to outline them real quick and then we'll dive into them. So, you have get calm, hold space, regulate, get curious, teach what to do. So, in this first area, getting calm has nothing to do with your child. It has nothing to do with anybody else in the room except for you. You are regulating yourself. If you are new to regulation, I have my calming tools for adults, for moms, which is 14 calming tools. You can get those for completely free. All you need to do is just comment calm below, and I will send you the link. But if you're interested in actually deep diving, like you're like, I want to become a calm parent, I'm ready to engage in this process because I struggle with frustration, rage, anger. It seems like my default is to yell, is to absolutely lose it. I'm not even noticing anything prior to that point. It seems like I'm just a bomb that just went off. If this is you, I have the Calm Mama Blueprint. This is a 5-week self-paced course that will help you to actually become the calm mom that you have always dreamed of being. This is the blueprint that took me from being a rage-filled, angry, frustrated mom to handling most situations with calm and peace. So if you're interested in that, I'll make sure to link that below. But this area is all about you. You want to get yourself in a really good space so that you can handle the child. And I know I'm going to get questions here of like, what if my child is hitting another kid? How am I supposed to calm myself first? Of course, we want to separate, make sure that our child is safe and other children in the home are safe, or, if you're out in public. Of course, we want to ensure that everybody is safe. But often, us modern moms, we tend to be a little helicoptery and we tend to make emergencies out of everything. Is it truly an emergency? Is somebody truly going to be going to the hospital if this thing were to keep going? If you were not to intervene right this second? That's a question I'm often asking myself to see if I can have a second to calm myself down. And if I can, this is the very first step. The second step is that holding space. Holding space means sometimes you're not talking. You're just being fully present with the child. You're letting them know, I'm here. This is kind of where that borrowing your calm starts to come in. They're starting to see the softness, the nurturance in their mother. They're able to be held, whether that's physically or that's just the space, but just being there with them. I would invite you not to say anything at all, but if you feel like maybe some comforting words would really help your child to come down, then absolutely offer that. But this is not a space to correct, to tell your child, why did you do this? You shouldn't do this. It is literally just to hold space. Okay, number 3 is going to be regulate the child. This is where you're actually letting them borrow your calm. Now, in the beginning, you may find your child wants nothing to do with you. This was my first daughter. We had used disconnection as a way, which by the way, was just me putting her in another space. It wasn't timeout. It wasn't any of these punishments, so to speak, but disconnection, me walking away from her was how I punished. So here I had to really rebuild connection. So if you notice that, it's okay. You can rebuild connection. I actually have an entire workshop called Rekindling Connection, and this is the process I took to help rekindle that connection with my daughter. Now, if your child is super lovey and they love the nurturing, the hug, I mean, give it to them. Give whatever that regulating thing is for them. Of course, I'm not saying here, oh, just give them a snack. Oh, just give them something to help them fill the void. That's not what I'm saying. You want to actually help them to regulate, whether that's deep breaths or, maybe it's just stepping outside, going to a window, finding maybe a little distraction, maybe sitting down and playing blocks together. It is not a time to correct. The child is not going to hear anything when they're up here in fight or flight. There is no words that you could say that would make sense to them. We want to get the child into a calm space so they can actually learn a lesson from this tantrum. So they actually don't do it over and over again. I mean, they're going to do it again because they're children, they're learning. And maybe that's an expectation shift that needs to happen for you. Okay, number 4 is going to be get curious. After the child is calm, begin asking questions. What was going on for you? What are you feeling? What are you needing? Maybe it's sports casting, saying, hey, I saw you knock over your brother's blocks. What's going on for you? Even for toddlers who are nonverbal, watch their cues, watch their body language, because they can feel your energy, what you're bringing to the table, and allow their body, maybe even their babbles, to mimic back to you what they're feeling inside. Allow that to be what it is. And maybe at times you do need to make some empathy guesses, saying, I saw you knock over your sister's blocks. And you say, what was going on? They obviously can't talk, and you could say, maybe you were feeling frustrated because you also wanted the blocks. Making guesses here can help children to start to bring online different feelings, different needs that can be going on for them. Okay, number 5 is going to be putting on your teacher's hat and teaching your child what to do. Sometimes this idea of literally putting on a hat, like a teacher's hat, and saying, okay, I'm here to teach. We often go through, no, don't do this. No, don't do that. It's very no. Here's what's off limits. But we forget to tell the child what to do. What's the actual thing that we should be doing? What's appropriate or age appropriate in this moment. And so navigating that with your child. So I want to give you a real life example of what this would look like. So let's get the example of your toddler throws a cup of milk and is screaming on the ground because they wanted juice, not milk. Please tell me you've been here. This has absolutely been me. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be stepping back. For me, I love the calming tool of putting my hands on my chest and just giving myself a second to calm down. Okay, here I am. I'm right here. This can take 5 seconds, just grounding myself, centering myself. Sometimes right here is where I put on my teacher's hat and think to myself, okay, as a teacher, how would I handle this? Not as necessarily a parent. I know this is going to be triggering for some parents, but as a parent, that is our job, is to teach. And so in this moment is where we're our teachers. We're going to put on our teacher hat. The next thing is we're going to hold space. This is going to look like just sitting there, just trying to make eye contact with the child, allowing there to be space for them to feel. If they're absolutely losing it, you want to wait until they've started to calm down. You kind of notice the wave of like, okay, we're getting to the peak. And this can be sometimes several minutes. I mean, my second daughter, she can throw a tantrum and it doesn't happen often, but when it does, I mean, we could talk 30 minutes plus if she really wants to. But the whole thing here is allowing the emotion to happen and waiting for it to kind of start coming back down the other side. When the child has started to calm down, you could reach out a hand. If your child is very lovey, you could say, Oh, let me give you a hug. You could even say, do you want to borrow my calm? And allow the child to come into you and just soothe. For a little teeny tiny 1-year-old, it's like often this is just it, just kind of holding and rocking and nurturing, right? Then we're going to ask questions. Hey, so you threw your milk. What were you feeling? And maybe the toddler is able to say mad, or maybe they're not able to say anything, and you start empathy guessing here, giving them some clues onto what was going on. And then you're going to teach. So next time, when you see mama give you milk and you don't want milk, you can say, no, thank you, mama. And then I will get you something else that you would really enjoy. Telling the child how to refuse something, because in life, they are going to get something that they don't want. And we want to teach them how to say what they want in a really kind and respectful way. That's the goal, right? So these are the steps to actually teaching your toddler how to work through a tantrum, and for you to work through a tantrum. I think there is so much that we get focused on just the part of the behavior, right? We focus in, how do we make this stop? Because it's embarrassing, because it's scary. What if the child does this when they're 20? I mean, granted, they'll be 20, it's not an actual tantrum, but what if they just lose it and they can't handle themselves in the world? These are fears that we have. And when we parent from that place, our child feels the fears. So let's parent from a place of confidence, just showing up with holding space, showing up with presence, with love, with empathy, and then teaching and correcting. It's not saying that the behavior is okay. This is not at all saying that or showing your child that. It's actually showing them how to work through those really big feelings, because they don't know how to. And what you'll start to notice is after just a few tantrums, they're going to start learning these skills, and then there's less tantrums, because they're actually learning how to handle the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the fear, being scared. They know how to handle these emotions because you are modeling and teaching it to them. So I hope that this video is helpful. I hope that it gave you a guide and a blueprint. If you have any questions, make sure that you comment them below. If you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you want to continue seeing more content like this, hit that subscribe button. So alrighty guys, I will see you next week.